Welcome to the Tradex Foods 3-Minute Market Insight. This is Robert Ryerson, and here's the seafood news for Monday, November 23rd, 2015. Let's talk coho salmon, also known as silver salmon. Pricing on wild caught cohos have been gradually climbing out of the gutter since we reported on them plummeting in August. We're seeing 2015 Alaskan cohos currently on for as high as the $4.55 a pound mark for premium troll quality 4 to 6 pound H&G. Back in August, we reported the 2015 Alaskan cohos at about $1.80 a pound for 4 to 6 pound H&G. This equates to about a 60% increase to the price of cohos in just 3 months. So why the price increase? The fresh market was hot and the processors were keeping cohos out of the freezers, limiting the supply of frozen inventories. Total cohos harvested out of Alaska this year were significantly lower than the banner 2014 year. 2015 saw 3.5 million Alaskan cohos landed compared to 6.1 million cohos caught in 2014. With less 2015 cohos in the market, buyers looking for 2015 products saw limited supply and higher prices, even though there were still carryover inventories from 2014. This may look like great news for processors, however, with a species such as salmon, there are always alternatives. Farmed Chilean Atlantic salmon is an alternative to wild cohos and can also dictate some price adjustments. Back in August, 3 to 4 pound Chilean Atlantic salmon fillets were floating around the $4 range, which is one of the higher numbers it's hit during the year. Since then, pricing has been seen as low as $3.20 a pound, up to $3.65 a pound for 3 to 4 pound fillets. Chilean salmon prices have not been seen to go any lower. In fact, towards the end of this year, pricing traditionally trends back up. As Chilean salmon trends back upwards, watch out for the price of wild cohos to adjust back down. Our recommendation is to purchase your coho fillets and portions 2 to 3 months out. Our Tradex live offer of the week is for 1 to 3 pound coho salmon fillets. These are premium quality Sinbad Platinum brand, vacuum packed in 1x25 boxes, priced at $4.50 US dollars FOB Vancouver, Canada, with a minimum order of 1,000 pounds. Click or tap the icon above to view this offer. Next up is our exclusive interview with Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada scientist Kristi Miller. Kristi's study on the Fraser River Sockeye found that there was a genomic signature that indicated that the fish were responding to a virus that was predictive of their survival in the Fraser River. This information was deemed a bad news story by Stephen Harper's Conservative government, and Kristi and her colleagues were prohibited from discussing their research, and media access was tightly controlled. We asked Kristi, what is the virus, how does it affect sockeye, and does it only affect sockeye?
Well, the paper that was in question at the time that I was not allowed to speak to the media was not specifically about a specific virus, but it was about a signature, a genomic signature that indicated that fish may be responding to a virus. So I'll say that first. So the paper that came out in Science was about the genomic signature that was observed in the marine environment and the marine approach to the Fraser River and was predictive of subsequent survival in the river. And at the time that we published the paper, we didn't have a virus yet, but we hypothesized that the signature was associated with the response to a virus. Subsequent to that, we actually did isolate a novel virus from fish that carried that signature, and that was it was a parvovirus. Parvoviruses are most known as viruses that can affect dogs. So you hear about a dog parvovirus that can cause tremendous mortality in puppies, actually. But it was the first time a parvovirus had ever been identified in a fish. And so we are now at the point, we've identified the parvovirus. We've shown that it is infective in sockeye salmon, but we have not yet established whether or not the signature is caused by the parvovirus, or whether the parvovirus can cause mortality. And so that takes some time to do those studies. So right now we have identified a novel parvovirus. We've identified a signature that that is associated with premature mortality, but we haven't quite been able to link the two yet in a cause and effect relationship. So far in our challenge studies and in our monitoring studies where we've looked to find this virus, we've principally found it in sockeye salmon. Very occasionally had positives in Chinook salmon, but not commonly, and we haven't seen it in Atlantic salmon or coho salmon.
Then we asked her if she thinks the management of the Fraser River Sockeye salmon fishery would have been impacted if her scientific work had been made available to the public.
Well, in order for new scientific information to be used for management, that information has to be shown to be predictive over multiple years. And in fact, managers like to see predictability over 30 years, which is something that's very difficult to do when you're bringing new technology to the table. So it wouldn't immediately have affected any management decisions. However, it's important that managers know what new information is coming out. And one of the things that hadn't been considered until now, and really until after the Cohen inquiry, was that infectious disease could be a factor that's undermining the performance of our wild fish. I think the one piece of information that was most important for immediate consideration by managers at that time, however, was that the physiological profile that we identified, that we hypothesized was associated with the virus, was found in fish before they even entered the Fraser River. So they hadn't even entered fresh water. In fact, they were as much as 1,000 kilometers from entering fresh water. And so up until that time, almost all of the research had focused on the freshwater conditions being predictive of premature mortality of migrating Fraser sockeye salmon. And this study showed that the condition of fish before they even entered freshwater was predictive of their subsequent fate in freshwater. So it was predictive of premature mortality en route to spawning grounds in freshwater. And that, I think, was probably the most important thing, because from a management perspective, managers are interested in implementing predictive tools that they can implement before they open fisheries. And the main fisheries for the Fraser River Sockeye salmon are in Johnson Strait and Juan de Fuca Strait. And so if we could identify a tool that was predictive of freshwater survival before fish even entered freshwater, that was of high value to managers. If we had a tool that really only predicted survival after fish had been in freshwater and required them to move to freshwater before you could kind of see the tool, then it wasn't of as much use, because the fisheries were really primarily ocean fisheries. Now, the fisheries in Fraser River Sockeye salmon have there's a lot more fisheries now in the river than there used to be in the past. So, such a tool could still be useful. But, up until that point, the main sort of environmental variable that managers were considering in association with opening and closing fisheries was the temperature of the Fraser River, the predicted temperatures in the Fraser River. And that's still used today. So now we know that the temperature in the Fraser River is an important predictor, but disease or the physiological condition of fish prior to entry might also be an important predictor. I should say one follow-up to that is we've expanded this program quite considerably since that time and have really developed a program to look more extensively at the role of infectious disease, or at least the role of potential pathogens on fate of salmon. And we're looking at sockeye salmon, Chinook salmon, and coho salmon. So how important are pathogens and disease in terms of undermining performance of wild fish? And we've since done another study that was very much like the one that we published in Science, but that looked at 45 different microbes or pathogens that can impact salmon, and have since identified a parasite as well that is correlated with migratory success. And so it looks like, and that was in a different stock, so it looks like in different stocks there may be multiple different disease agents that could impact their survival.
In 2014, the Fraser River salmon fishery was responsible for bringing 7.3 million salmon to the market. Coincidentally, on the back of the release of Kristi's research, the 2015 Fraser River salmon catch totaled just 1.1 million salmon. This really sheds light on how useful being able to predict the condition of fish before they even enter their spawning grounds is. Not just for fisheries management, but for seafood buyers and industry to be able to forecast supply and price outlook. This is an excellent example of how the seafood industry is moving forward full steam. We look forward to more groundbreaking research out of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada and other organizations worldwide. Thank you for joining me for the Tradex Foods 3-Minute Market Insight. This is Robert Ryerson. Buy smart and eat more seafood.